Hey, we're back with more Fruits Basket.
Wait a minute, I actually need to reflip through this one.
Oh, okay, flip through it.
Yeah.
So this is Fruits Basket Volume 3. We had made a comment at the beginning of the year. We do want to keep going on some of the series that we've started, that we've been enjoying or thought we could enjoy. And so Fruits Basket is a big one for me, especially because I have the collector's editions, which means if we kind of do them one at a time, there's only like 12, 13 volumes for us to get through, even though they're a little bit thicker than normal. So I figured it was a good series to continue with. And it's such an iconic shoujo manga, and I really enjoy Fruits Basket, especially because I've now put the new anime into the hat, and the new anime is completed. So it's nice to have kind of that background. Like, I'll definitely be very interested in Knickknack's opinions when the anime eventually comes out of the hat, knowing that he's like read a significant amount of it at this point, even if we don't continue it from here on. But yes, yeah, so we left off at the end of Volume 2's discussion, kind of with the comment in mind that Volume 1 and 2 really don't do a great job in terms of like categorizing and furthering the story necessarily, but what Volume 1 and 2 do is introduce a lot of characters in the chapters contained in them. Because by the end of Volume 2, we've met pretty much everyone in the Zodiac, I think, as well as all of our main and sort of side story characters. So we've met Yuki, Kyo, Ayame, Shigure, Dr. Hattori, we've met Kagura, we've met Hatsuharu and Momiji, and we've met sort of the girl from in the lady in the onsen and such, and we've seen backstories for some of them at this point. Like, we got a little bit of Momiji's backstory and Hatsuharu's. But I think, in my opinion, right, and this is just based on my own rereading of it, based on the fact that I already know a ton about this, Volume 3 does a much better job than the first two at actually giving us some like character development and really grounding the characters that we have into our minds.
I would agree, at least with the back half. I think the front half still does do a little bit of character introduction stuff, but the back half, especially once you get into the, I forget which, it's been weeks since I've read this because this has gotten delayed multiple times. The back half, once you get into Kyo, I think, yeah.
And his spare cat form?
Yeah.
His secondary cat form?
That form.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like there's a lot more going on character-wise there.
Yeah, so, fun fact, remember how the original anime kind of ends non-canon?
Mm-hmm.
Kyo, the reveal of Kyo's cat form is a major part of the original anime and leading up into the ending surrounding it, right? Because it doesn't go a whole lot further than that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a huge reveal in the anime.
I did read the author's note that referenced that for the anime fans.
Yeah.
Because they actually made it past that point in this volume,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. They made it past it. They made it to my favorite Ayame arc, which is when they go to Ayame's clothing store. And he's like kind of trying to dress them up in different outfits. And he's got his assistant who also works on the costumes. Because I think it's so funny because Ayame is such a strange character. And he'll say weird things like, the compulsion to peek into a woman's bath is just one example of this drive, man's covetous nature. And then Yuki shoots back, that's illegal! You know? And so it's really funny, but I think a lot of the times that Ayame comes up on screen, they use comedy to kind of dance around the fact that a lot of Ayame's lines tend to be really... His storylines are often quite melancholic, and he's got a lot going for him in terms of being a character who really just follows his dreams, right? Like, he does exactly what he wants to do and really tries not to let anyone stop him, no matter really what he has to do to kind of get his way and be able to do what he wants. And in a lot of ways, I kind of admire that about him. Like, he's one of the characters I like more. So even though he says weird things like man's covetous nature creates the need to peek into women's baths, you know, at the same time, he'll then make in the same arc comments about how people should always be free to dress in a way that makes them the most comfortable, and nobody should judge someone based on that. You know what I mean? So I really like Ayame because of moments like that, because you get these arcs that are just really short and really funny, but at the same time have this like kind of melancholic inspiration running down through them in sort of like a deep vein that you really have to excavate sometimes, but it makes them fun. A little bit more nuance than some of Kyo and Yuki's storylines, which are just like, emo rat boy, fighter type cat boy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think Momiji also has some like darker tones to some of his storylines. Because he's kind of experienced so much loss in his life and had like such a tragic backstory, which we kind of got to see in the last volume and this one. And once again, Shigure's being Shigure.
The tiger was that little vignette was amusing. It's gonna bite you. Bite.
Nom. But I think the main important arc in Volume 3 is Kyo's secondary cat form and the fact that he was trying to hide it, and his reuniting with his master, who he's talked about before. Right.
So is the secondary form like something exclusive to Kyo, or is that something that's going to come up again for others as well?
Exclusive to Kyo, and it has something to do with him being the cat and the place of the cat in the Zodiac. And I believe it has like deeper ties into the curse itself.
Because Kyo is the one that was abandoned by his mother, right?
Yes.
And that secondary cat form is implied to be why.
Yes. Although it's not like Yuki has a particularly happy backstory either.
No.
Yeah.
No, but like even...
but yeah, Kyo was deadass just abandoned and then raised by his master.
But it seems like there's almost like some mental thing that happens to people around. Like Toru, like even Toru was like, it's like smells revolting at first, like like when she immediately sees it.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's the biggest reveal in kind of the early part of the series is the secondary form that Kyo has and kind of all this torture that it's caused him, because in reality, I mean, this is something that really bugs him. I mean, it's something he tries desperately to hide and he doesn't want to ever talk about. He doesn't want anyone to ever know about it. And it's so... I almost like hate his master in that moment for like forcing him to reveal something like that under the guise of, you know, you can't make a choice like this without actually bearing yourself for people to see. It's such a dick move. And I get that he's trying to like create character development. You know, he's trying to like make Kyo better as a person by like making him honest with his friends, that he can really live his life, but damn, would I want to like punch the shit out of him for that. Like, I would not then be crawling back to him and being like, I will become someone who you will allow to call you father. No. But you know, differences. So. Yeah. But like, okay, so because last time we discussed how like with Volume 1 and 2 you were kind of off in the deep end because 1 and 2 are mostly just adding new characters and stuff. How are you feeling now looking at like the first 3 volumes altogether?
I'm more intrigued by the end of Volume 3, I'll say that. Like, I'm a lot more like, okay, what's really going on here? There's a lot more to this than...
The curse is showing a lot more dark side than it did in the first 2 volumes, so you can definitely see that it's a curse and not just like a thing that this family line does.
Because before, like, there is a YouTube parody of the show Ruby out there, and like one of Ruby's like characters has this curse that forces him to turn into a crow, and the parody is just like, oh no, woe is me, I turn into a bird. Oh no. I was getting that sense a lot with how they were treating the curse before this before this volume here.
Yeah, because we hadn't really had anything sort of bad happening with the curse. Like, it was like, really just, oh, whoopsies, they hug someone of the opposite sex and turn into a...
Oh no, you turn into a rabbit. You can literally use that party trick to woo any woman you want. I don't know how this is a curse.
Yeah. And then with kind of Kyo, you can certainly start to see something's wrong.
Yeah.
With what's happening. And I mean, Jesus, like the hints that we are getting bit by bit about Akito and the way that some of these characters were treated, like in their childhood. Like fucking Yuki, every time we have a flashback to his goddamn childhood, I'm just like, what the fuck? You know? Like, what in the ever-loving hell is happening here? Like, this kid is being severely psychologically and mentally abused.
Yeah, I think right now the backstories and some of the backstories are probably the most compelling thing for me. I'm still not clicking with, like, Toru as a main character here. She feels like...
So
she's like a passive force in the story. And
yeah,
it's
so
almost to a fault.
So volume 2, we got a little bit of backstory on her friend who dresses like the gangster, right? But this volume, we got backstory on her spooky aura friend, and her spooky aura friend going to those the Prince Yuki fan club's house and just intimidating them to hell and back while expressing her opinions and views and why she likes her friends, which is terrifying and adorable at the same time. But yeah, I see what you mean. The backstory is kind of... I'm hoping that they'll continue ramping up in terms of, like, seeding in, you know, information before we get to kind of more climactic events. It's been a while since I read these, so, like, I've read them and I've watched them, but I don't always have a great grasp of, like, timelines in terms of, like, what happens in which book. So...
I think right now my primary problem with the series... Because at this point, I do see the story actually starting to gain momentum. Toru's the one part here. It's like the opposite of a Luffy. Like I'm not annoyed by her at all. But I'm just not feeling anything towards her because it still feels like whenever something goes on in the story, it's happening and she happens to either just be around or like story moments are handed to her by other characters, kind of.
Yeah.
It never feels like anything. She's not taking any initiative on anything.
That's fair. I get where you're coming from. I don't have a ton more to say about book 3. I think book 3 really just kind of picks up from books 1 and 2 in that, hey, here's all of our characters. Now let's start digging into them. You know what I mean? That's my opinion of book 3. So I'm interested to see how book 4 goes. So that being said, we'll be back for book 4 at some point in the future. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know how you feel about the Fruits Basket manga and how you feel about the Fruits Basket anime, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.